Hello, hello, and welcome back. You are watching the Zenith Glow Astrology channel. My name is Christina, and I am an astrologer, and I am so very happy to have you here. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we are going to be discussing the upcoming Virgo lunar eclipse. Yup. But we are also going to be talking about Mercury retrograde because these two events are not only happening simultaneous to each other, but they are deeply connected. So we're going to talk a little bit about Mercury retrograde to start with, but most of this video is going to be about that eclipse because it is a big deal. So we're going to get into it. Before we get started, you know what I'm going to say if you've watched my videos before. Please, would you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and by all means, share. Share this video with anyone that you think it might resonate with. Doing all those things helps support my work, and I greatly appreciate your support. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for doing all that stuff. And yeah, I'm sorry if there's any background noise that leaks in because, of course, the second that I hit record, my beautiful dog Jazzy decided to start chewing on his bone. So there might be a little bit of grinding sounds in the background. Ooh, it's a little hard to say. Grinding sounds in the background. Uh, so if that does happen to get picked up by the mic, I'm sorry about that. If not, then, please disregard. All right. So let's see. What do I do? Okay. So we have Mercury turning retrograde in 2 days, actually. So on February 25th, Mercury is stationing retrograde in the sign of Pisces, and it will be doing so at 22 degrees of Pisces. And then it will be retrograde all the way until March 20th. If you watched my recent 5DT with Jacqueline Middleton, hi Jacqueline. I think I said that Mercury stations direct on the 19th. Sorry about that. And maybe that's splitting hairs because, it's very close. But I do want to make that correction. It's actually turning direct on March 20th, which is the same day as astrological New Year, aka the spring equinox, aka when the sun enters Aries. So that's going to be a big deal. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit more as it gets closer because there's other things happening in that window of time as well. But anyway, there are several other alignments that Mercury is making during its retrograde cycle between the 25th of February and the 20th of March that I'm going to cover here in just a minute. And all of this, once again, is relevant because we have a lunar eclipse in Virgo, which is the main, Mercury retrograde is kind of like the warm-up act in this video. And then the headliner is going to be about that Virgo lunar eclipse. But because it is a Virgo eclipse, it is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is transiting through the sign opposite of the eclipse. So all of this together is significant and it's important. And I usually like to talk about Mercury retrograde anyway, just because it's one of those retrograde events with a personal planet that we happen to feel very acutely. It's probably the most famous astrological transit that people who don't care about astrology seem to know about. You hear people that know almost nothing about astrology or really don't care about it, and even they are saying, "Oh, it's Mercury retrograde." So yeah, it's worth noting. So that's what we're gonna do here. So yeah, let's talk about Mercury retrograde, and then we will get into the nitty-gritty of this eclipse. So once again, February 25th to March 20th. When it stations direct, it's going to do so at 8 degrees of Pisces. So it's spending its entire retrograde in the sign of Pisces. So the first thing that happens after it stations retrograde on the 25th, on February 28th, last day of February, it's going to come into conjunction with the planet Venus. This is significant in and of itself, but also because on the 28th, we have a planetary alignment. And, I'm a bad astrologer, so I didn't write down all the planets that are aligning that day. What are they? Okay, I think we have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Neptune, Saturn, maybe Jupiter. Go look it up. this is an opportunity to use that beautiful search engine that you have access to and go look it up. But the point of the planetary alignment is that it's literally like the planets are aligning. There's something significant happening energy-wise on that day, and there is significant alignment happening in our lives. This is really the theme, like the name of the game of this entire eclipse season, right? Because we had the Aquarius solar eclipse simultaneous to the year of the fire horse that happened on February 17th. That was kind of kicking off the season. And that is all about getting us into alignment. And it's that imprint of energy that we carry throughout the whole year. Then we just had yesterday the 222 portal, right? And this also comes after we have the Saturn Neptune conjunction that was on the 20th. There's just a lot of individual alignments, kind of all a part of the same window of energy that's extending between the eclipses. Okay, so this entire period, it's not just one singular event or looking at each event in isolation, they're all together. You can think of the whole 2 week or a little bit more than 2 week window as like a symphony. There's something that's being played out, and then each little planetary alignment kind of pops in, and it's like, oh, there's the flutes, and there's the cello, and there's the piano, and it's all part of the same piece of music. And that piece of music is getting us into alignment. And we'll look at that a little bit more when we talk about the Virgo eclipse, but I just wanted to point that out. And so this alignment of planets on the 28th is further supporting that. The 222 portal is about alignment. And then Venus conjunct Mercury. That's going, while Mercury is retrograde, no less, that is a further type of alignment. Now, keep in mind that Mercury retrograde, this is really about going back over things and integrating them into linear conscious awareness. Mercury's been picking up information, but kind of traveling beyond the realms of what we can integrate when it was direct. So now that it's backtracking through the sign of Pisces, we are able to take all of that information, go back over our notes, and synthesize all of these themes into our conscious awareness. And being in the sign of Pisces, this is all related to our spiritual purpose. And yes, there's other themes as well. There's like heart's desires and long held wishes. There's healing, and there's also themes of collective consciousness and how we fit into the bigger picture, karma, all kinds of different things that go along with that Pisces energy. But really, especially because Mercury starts at that 22nd degree, again, 2-2, there's that alignment energy and also the builder energy, right? That going all the way to the 8th degree of Pisces, it's a period of transformation, and it's there to help us get into alignment with our spiritual purpose. Again, this goes into that Virgo lunar eclipse that we're going to talk about in a minute here. So that's the overarching theme of this Mercury retrograde period. So we might, this is true of any Mercury retrograde period, but we might be receiving downloads. I notice, so first of all, I do not have a problem with Mercury retrograde. When it is retrograde, I actually get really excited because I experience a ton of synchronicities and spiritual epiphanies and just all kinds of magical circumstances and experiences when Mercury is retrograde. And I find that a lot of people that are more dialed in consciously, that kind of slow down, they spend more time in the present moment, they have these types of experiences too. And again, and I've talked about this so many times, but I will repeat myself once more, we experience the typical Mercury retrograde catastrophes and annoyances when we are not heeding the call to slow down and to be more present and to allow ourselves to go back over things. Okay, it's only when we're pushing forward full steam and we're not taking the time to be more present that we tend to experience all those little hiccups, vehicle issues and spills and accidents and technology malfunctions, communication issues, things like that. So just keep in mind, this is a time to slow down, to integrate, to let yourself rest, and to really revisit things, really ruminate. Rumination is a very good thing to do during a Mercury retrograde period, okay? So, and this all has to do with spiritual purpose, spiritual direction, and spiritual fulfillment. Okay, during any planetary retrograde, we have a significant aspect that happens. With Mercury and Venus, this is a conjunction with the Sun, aka a solar conjunction. And when that happens, it signifies, like, to me, I consider it the climax of the retrograde period. It usually happens about halfway through, and it signifies the illumination that happens during that period. So Mercury, spends 1.5 weeks or so backtracking, and then it will come into conjunction with the Sun. In this particular retrograde period, that's going to be on March 7th, which is just a few days after our Virgo lunar eclipse. We'll talk about that. So, when it comes into conjunction with the Sun, Mercury experiences a light bulb moment, right? Literally overlapping with illumination, right? And that's our mind, right? So it's like a light bulb moment. We have an epiphany. There's something that comes to light, okay? And then we spend the remainder of the time in the retrograde period with that light bulb moment, kind of further integrating it into consciousness, kind of beginning to put it into some kind of a plan, some kind of strategy, some kind of, further integration, that we're going to take that thing, whatever it is, that epiphany, and we're going to carry it forward once Mercury turns direct. I hope that that makes sense. So that climax period, so to speak, is going to happen on March 7th. So just keep that in mind. And then Mercury will also be conjunct with Jupiter. Now, this is going to be another significant thing that happens because Jupiter is also preparing to station direct in March. It's going to go direct on March 11th, 10th, 11th, depending on your time zone. So that's another significant date, the 311. Jupiter is connected to the 1111 portal that we had last November. It experienced its little climactic aha moment during its retrograde cycle on the 111 portal in January, and now it's turning direct, okay? And again, when planets change direction, we feel their energy very intensely. And for Jupiter, and go back and watch my Jupiter retrograde video if you want to revisit these themes, but Jupiter's been delivering us huge blessings through its retrograde period. It's really been digging up things that we need to look at. So we've been doing a lot of healing. And as a result of that healing, Jupiter is helping us to align, there's that word again, with our purpose and with what is fulfilling for us, what is nurturing for us. And part of that energy is calling in our soul tribe, calling in our soulmates, and aligning us with what gives our lives meaning. So, big, beautiful blessings with the whole Jupiter retrograde cycle. And this is like the big moment in the retrograde cycle when it stations direct on the 11th. So, right before it stations direct, Mercury is going to be trine with Jupiter. I might have said conjunct a second ago. Sorry about that. Mercury is going to be trine with Jupiter on March 9th. So, that's just 2 days after it has its little light bulb moment conjunction with the Sun on the 7th. So that is going to be really significant. It's also going to be squaring Black Moon Lilith. Let's see. And it will square Black Moon Lilith the same day that it comes into conjunction with the planet Mars, and that's going to be on March 15th. So this is getting close to the end of Mercury's retrograde cycle at this point. I'm mentioning all of these things in case you want to track them, especially if you're a student of astrology. You can kind of jot down notes about these dates, and then as they arise, just observe what happens in your experience and make notes if there's anything that's notable. That's the best way to learn astrology, by the way. It's all about observation and analysis. So once you note something, you observe something that is significant, you can then carry that forward. So when other things happen later on during similar transits, you get an idea of the quality of energy and how that shows up for you. Just as a little aside. So these are the significant aspects that Mercury is going to make during its retrograde cycle, except for the very last one, which is it is stationing direct on March 20th. Once again, that's the same day as our astrological new year. And when it does this, it is going to be exactly conjunct with the North Node in Pisces at 8 degrees. Whew, it's going to be a really big moment because once again, Mercury stationing direct, its energy is going to be heightened. And then being conjunct with the North Node, I mean, that is like we are going to have such a clear understanding of our direction, of our spiritual purpose. So it's spending this whole time in Pisces kind of going over things, right? And trying to integrate these things that it's been picking up, trying to understand what direction we're being guided towards. And this is a bigger cycle. You know, there's lots of things that have been going on the past few months that have been delivering us with clues, so to speak, you know, little treasure maps that we're meant to follow to help bring us into alignment with our purpose. But now is the time where we integrate all of this stuff that's been coming through intuition, psychic information, spiritual phenomena, that type of thing, and we start to integrate it into linear consciousness. So, when Mercury comes into conjunction with the North Node at 8 degrees of Pisces, that's an empowerment number. That's also timelines, potentially shifting timelines, and that's also about transformation. So, we are going to be transformed. Something is going to shift in our perception, our understanding, or maybe what we are communicating to others about our spiritual path. And yeah, then it's off to the races with the year of the fire horse. So, okay, that's Mercury retrograde. Let's talk about that eclipse. Woo, this is exciting. So, the Aquarius eclipse was a big deal, right? And again, it happened in conjunction with that year of the fire horse. There was just a lot that went on with that event. Sorry, I've got a dog hair on my eyelash. Very regular occurrence in my household. But I don't want to let the Aquarius eclipse and all the hoopla that went into that overshadow this Virgo eclipse because this Virgo eclipse is equally powerful and equally important. And again, they are part of the same cycle of energy. And this entire cycle, this entire period is about getting us into alignment. So the Aquarius eclipse was like a door opening and it introduced something new to us. And it's not necessarily that that new thing is like, boom, pa, like it's there manifested and we're ready to go. It's more like opening the door and like, hey, follow the light. This is probably where you're going to be guided. And again, that's the energy imprint, and it starts to unfold over the next 6 months from that initial eclipse. With the Virgo lunar eclipse, it's like a door is closing. And that's the energy of lunar eclipses because they coincide with full moons. So we'll talk about what the closing door means. Before we get into that, let's talk about some of the technical details of this eclipse. So, first of all, I want to mention that this eclipse is a total lunar eclipse. Total. So it is also known as a blood moon because with total lunar eclipses, it is the light from the sun is completely blocked out, and so by the moon, and so we not by the moon. What am I saying? By the Earth. And so what happens is the light from the sun has to pass around the Earth, and it kind of refracts, and this is sciencey stuff, so if you're a scientist, you can explain this better than me, but the refraction of that light creates this reddish hue that we see kind of painted on the moon. Hence, we get a very red, orangey looking moon, and hence they call it a blood moon, which sounds super ominous, and maybe somebody wants to write some kind of a script for a horror movie. I'm sure there's one already out there. Eclipse, Blood Moon, a story about werewolves and vampires. Anyway, but in any case, because it is a total lunar eclipse, that means that it is going to be more intense. Again, eclipses are intense anyway. We feel their energy very acutely. We feel it filter in, 6 to 8 weeks before they even happen. The themes start to arise in our consciousness and in our experience. And then, bam, in that like 3-day to a week window around the eclipse, the thing, whatever it is extremely heightened, and we feel that very acutely. And then it takes about 6 months to see what all happened as a result of that, how energy that happened during the eclipse. So, total lunar eclipse is going to be more intense than, say, a partial lunar eclipse, um, or a penumbral lunar eclipse, or, those types of things. So it's very significant in that way. And again, it packs a punch, kind of like the Aquarius solar eclipse did. So I want to mention, because it's a blood moon, because it's going to be a big fancy event that you can observe physically, this is going to be visible in the following places. And you can also do what I did and just look this up online. But you should be able to see this in Western North America, Australia, New Zealand, and East Asia. So if you are located in any of those places, that is where the total lunar eclipse in Virgo will be visible, observable from. So if you're a photographer, you might want to bust out your camera, take some beautiful pictures of that. It's also significant because it is said that in places on Earth where you can physically observe eclipses with your eyes, those are areas that are particularly impacted by the energy of the eclipse. It's bringing transformation in a very personal way to those geographical regions. So something to, kind of chew on as we talk about the meaning of the eclipse. Okay, more technical details. So the eclipse itself, when is it happening? It's happening on March 3rd, 3/3. Yep, that's significant. It will be exact at 11:34 a.m. Universal Time, or 6:34 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time. I do this all the time, you guys. I hate time zones. Does anybody else hate time? I don't hate time. Just sometimes I'm like, wait a minute. Did we fall back? Did we spring forward? Are we in daylight time? Are we in standard time? What time are we in right now? Maybe that's just the nature of the energy that we're in right now, because time is kind of wibbly wobbly. Yeah. Anyway, okay. And just keep in mind, you can always do a little search for this information if you're like, oh my gosh, Christina totally flubbed that. Let's go look it up and see what the truth of it is. But yeah, so 11:34, yeah, yeah, that is correct. 11:34 a.m. Universal Time, 6:34 Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be at 12 degrees 51 minutes of Virgo. So check your chart and see if you have anything at or really close to 12 degrees of Virgo. And if you don't have anything in Virgo, check the rest of your chart and see if you have anything near 12 degrees in any other sign. If you do, and that includes major angles in your chart, by the way, if you do, this eclipse is going to be impacting you very specifically. And yeah, if you want to unpack what all of that means, I am open to do personal readings. You can go to my website, zenithglowastrology.com, to book that with me, and I would love to go over that with you. And we can kind of unpack, what is the eclipse bringing to you personally? How's it going to show up for you? And why are those things happening? But either way, that's how you do that. You kind of look at how it's impacting your chart. Okay, let's keep going here. Sorry. So that's mostly the technical details. So happening on 3/3, I mean, there's just so many magical numerological synchronicities already this year. I mean, it's just so beautiful. So yeah, the 3/3 day is a portal day in and of itself. Like, even if there was nothing going on planetarily alignment wise, we would still have a significant energetic portal that day. But with it coinciding with this total blood moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, that's extra potent energy. I mean, man, it's just underscoring. And so this is a highly significant event, and we're going to see that as we keep going forward here. Why and how that is significant. I want to mention that this lunar eclipse is actually connected to the previous lunar cycles with Virgo from this last late summer, early fall. Now, it's also significant because this is kind of like the last hurrah with Virgo. We do have one more lunar eclipse in Virgo in 2027, and that one is happening during that eclipse season that heralds in the year of the fire goat next year. But that one's going to just be, I believe it's just a partial lunar eclipse. So again, it'll be significant, it'll have its own energies, but it's kind of like the energy will be dissipating at that time. It's not going to be as powerful. This one is like, whew, really, really powerful. So it's extra significant because we're wrapping up these energies of Virgo that we've been working with since the nodes changed signs. And this one in particular is connected to this past Virgo stuff that happened. So, just as a reminder, if you weren't following me at that time or if you don't remember, in late August, on August 23rd, we had a new moon in Virgo, just a regular new moon, not an eclipse, and it was at 0 degrees of Virgo. Okay, then less than a month later, we had a partial solar eclipse in Virgo at 29 degrees, and it was the day before the equinox. This was a really powerful window, okay? Lots of interesting things were introduced at that time. I personally was super impacted by that, and you all probably felt something too. It was right on the heels of Lionsgate that all of this started opening up, that window of time between 0 degrees and 29 degrees of Virgo. But it really was like a portal opening because we had two new moons, right? So one was a regular new moon at 0 degrees, so brand new beginning and infinite potential. And then the other was a solar eclipse, a partial solar eclipse, and that was at 29 degrees. So that was the anaretic degree of Virgo. I like how I just drew that with my like, I wish I had that technology. Like I could just, okay, anyway. So we had the anaretic degree of Virgo. So there was a really big portal that opened that was tied into Virgo energy at that time. It was like, hey, this is the time for Virgo, folks, and you're going to be working on Virgo themes. And again, because we had an eclipse as part of that, that meant that for the next 6 months, those Virgo themes were going to roll out. And now we are entering the total blood moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. And this is concluding what was introduced at that time. This is the culmination, full moon, harvest, release. This is the finale of what was introduced back then at the fall equinox in the northern hemisphere, spring equinox for the southern hemisphere. So this is a big deal. And so you can go back over the last 6 months and think about what has unfolded for you. What was introduced to you around the equinox in September or late August? What kind of themes have you been working with? And think about the energy of Virgo, which we're going to talk about more here in a second. But this lunar eclipse that we are about to experience on the 3-3 portal really has to do with concluding this cycle. So, again, very intense energy going into this event. And then once again, this eclipse is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is retrograde at the time of the eclipse. So all of Mercury's themes are being funneled into this eclipse as well. So what the eclipse is introducing to us is tied directly into the work that Mercury's doing as it moves through Pisces. And again, Pisces is opposite of the sign of Virgo. So just some really interesting things happening. And Mercury has that conjunction with the sun on March 7th, which is just 4 days after this eclipse. Well within the window of the eclipse energy, right? So we have the sun opposite of the moon during the lunar eclipse. And it's this big, like, woo event where we are harvesting, culminating, epiphanies, releasing, shedding, all of that. And then 4 days later, Mercury comes into conjunction with the sun, and it's like, oh, I understand everything now. And then we get that like epiphany, and it's like, ooh, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go forward with it when I'm ready to, when I go forward again. So that's kind of the vibe of the energy, and that's how it's going to roll out. Okay, let's see. And then the other thing that's important to note about this eclipse, let me pull up a chart. What am I doing, folks? Let's look at a chart. Let me do that first, since we're talking about all this technical stuff anyway. can see my stack of tarot decks over here. That's not even all of them. Those are just the ones I've been using in the last 24 hours. So as well, let's see, this event, this lunar eclipse is happening 1 week before Jupiter stations direct. Okay, so again, all of these things that I've been talking about, the Mercury retrograde and all of its facets, and the eclipse itself, this is also coordinating with Jupiter stationing direct and concluding its retrograde period. It's all part of the same package, you could say. And the eclipse itself is being aspected by Jupiter. And that's actually one of the most prominent aspects coming through this eclipse. So here we have our chart. There's a handful of aspects I'm going to talk about here. One of the things, okay, well, we're talking about Jupiter, so let's start. We'll just start with Jupiter. We'll just stay on the same thread. Okay. So we have Jupiter at 15 degrees of Cancer. It's retrograde. It is trine the sun and it is sextile the moon in Virgo during this eclipse. Okay. This is a harmonious aspect. Yay. And Jupiter is an auspicious planet and it's extra auspicious being in the sign of Cancer. So there's some really beautiful blessings coming through this energy. And Cancer, again, it's really about doing that inner work and going deep into the self, into the psyche, into the childhood, into past lives, into the root system to discover the truth of who we are and what we have needed to kind of uproot that maybe doesn't really belong in order to step fully into our authenticity and into our personal sense of security and to own up to our gifts and to experience blessings in our lives. It is such a beautiful transit, this whole Jupiter retrograde thing. So, with it being trine the sun in Pisces, there's something that comes through illumination wise, right? We come into some kind of conscious awareness of something deeper being held within us. And again, it is a blessing. There's something that's highlighted for us. It could have to do with our ancestry, it could have to do with something super spiritual like past lives or galactic ancestry, spiritual ancestry, that type of thing. And it can have to do with our spiritual purpose as well. Now, the Jupiter is also sextile the moon, and the moon is in Virgo. Now, the moon is showing us what we need to release, and the sun is illuminating that. Okay, so Jupiter is also offering some tools and some insight into what we are ready to let go of at this time. So that's going to be a really beautiful aspect. The other significant thing happening, so the sun is exactly conjunct with goddess asteroid Pallas Athena during this eclipse at 12 degrees of Pisces. Pallas Athena is the goddess of wisdom. So again, there's some kind of really profound spiritual wisdom that is being illuminated for us or that we are receiving as a result of what is arising to be released during this eclipse. So just boatloads of epiphanies, you guys. Like especially with Mercury retrograde. I mean, expect to have the veil peeled back for you and expect to have so many insights. And especially if you are consciously working with this energy, if you are open to it, Pisces energy is very strong at this time. The day of the eclipse, Mars is at 0 degrees of Pisces. We still have Venus there. Mercury's retrograding there. The North Node is still there. And then obviously the Sun conjunct Pallas. So really flow with that energy, right? That is Pisces energy. This is about surrender and flow and trusting the higher guidance, the inner guidance that you are receiving. And if you are consciously attuned to that, I guarantee that you're going to have some like mega insights come to you. Okay. It's going to be really, really powerful. So Pallas Athena, very, very strong at this time. And then a couple other things going on. The moon and the sun are both in a conjunction with the nodes as well. It's a little bit looser conjunction, but it's an eclipse, so absolutely we can feel that energy. So the sun and Pallas Athena are conjunct with the north node, and then the moon is conjunct with the south node in Virgo. So, when we talk about Jupiter offering tools to the moon conjunct the south node, we're talking about insight into the past and into what we need to let go of. So, again and again, Mercury retrograde, right? Going over things, looking backward. We're going to have things illuminated for us from the past, however that shows up for us, and it's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but it's going to be about like what we need to let go of. What are we ready to release at this time that's no longer serving us? And by the way, you know what's coming up next. I did a tarot reading and we're going to talk about it, and oh my gosh, it was super beautiful, and I actually can't wait to get into that. Um, but before we do, having the Sun and Pallas conjunct the North Node in Pisces, again, that is really illuminating the spiritual direction that we are headed in and what our purpose is and where we are being guided toward. And we are going to recognize, so simultaneous to like having the epiphany of what that spiritual calling is and where we're meant to go, we're going to recognize what's holding us back from doing that, and we're going to be called to release that at this time during this event. All right, the other thing that's going on, we have Venus at 28 degrees, yes, 28 degrees of Pisces, and she is sextile with Uranus in Taurus. And that's significant because Venus rules the sign of Taurus. But being the outer planet, Uranus is acting upon Venus. So we are also getting more of these Venusian themes. They've been coming up repeatedly in the past several significant transits and lunar cycles. Venus is a big deal this year, and I plan to talk about that even more as we move along. But Uranus is helping to give Venus some new tools, some insights. There is a whole new sense of values and self-worth that's being revealed, right? Lunar eclipse revealed to us during this event. And it is going to set us free. Okay, Uranus. It is helping us to connect deeper with our authentic selves. So beautiful. And as a result of all of this, it is opening our hearts and fortifying our relationships, or opening us to attract relationships that we are ready for, destined relationships. During the Aquarius solar eclipse, I'm trying so hard not to trip over my words, you guys. And again, Mercury is about to station retrograde. I think I'm actually doing pretty good, all things considered. But during our last eclipse, Venus was exactly conjunct the North Node. Okay. And I talked about this. That is an imprint for the entire year that we are moving through. And that imprint signifies that we are attracting relationships that are in alignment with our spiritual purpose, or relationships that are our spiritual purpose, that are part of our spiritual purpose. So that energy is continued here because we can see, Venus in the sign of Pisces, that spirituality, and we can see that whatever comes through this Uranian aspect, it's helping to break us free from things that were holding us back. And it's really helping us to embrace this sense of personal self-worth, coming home to ourselves, feeling so much more secure in ourselves than we ever have. Because when you are secure in yourself and you're aligned with that authentic vibration that you carry, that's very unique to you, you become a super magnet for all the things that are in alignment with that signature. And that includes relationships. Okay. So that energy is coming into this eclipse as well. Super interesting that they're connected that way. Let's see. So the last thing I was going to talk about is the fact that Black Moon Lilith is squaring the nodes at the time of this eclipse. So Black Moon Lilith being in the sign of Sagittarius, she is really bringing up the shadow of how we have been held back and limited in our truth and freedom. Okay. So, really looking at both sides of the equation, what we desire to move forward into, but also what we bring with us from the past. All of those things are being asked to be released. And again, we might have a sense of where we want to go in terms of like North Node and this is my destiny and purpose, but you have to remember that this is all about flow and surrender, Pisces, and yielding to the will of a higher power, whatever that is for you, however that looks for you. You know, we always have ideas about what we think is best for us, but of course, spirit always knows better than we do. And so part of that is recognizing the truth. Black Moon Lilith is helping to illuminate truth for us at this time. And that truth might be a bit difficult to swallow at first because it might contradict what we initially planned for ourselves or conceived of. But again, if you surrender, if you flow, you'll see that the divine really does know what's best for you and has your best interest at heart. And ultimately, whatever you're guided to go towards, as different as it may be from what you initially had conceived of, it's going to offer you so much freedom and so much expansion and so much more than what you would have had with your old ideas and inspirations. Okay, so we're kind of rebirthing, we're sort of rebirthing our inspirations and our sense of direction at this time. And then at the same time, we're getting kind of, a hard look at the past and what we've held on to. And there are things that we've sort of clung to that need to be let go that are no longer serving us. And speaking of, we're going to look at the tarot reading next. Let me check my notes. Did I miss anything? Nope. Pretty awesome. No. I'm going to go ahead and go to the chart here. All right. So, bam. Sorry, doing technical things on my computer. Okay. Magical things that you can't see. No. All right, so here's the tarot reading that I did, and this is very on par with what I just talked about, but it is so, so beautiful, folks. I have to tell you, man, actually, let me make a note. I'm all over the place here, but we're talking about a full moon total lunar eclipse. So just as a heads up, this could be a very emotional event for you. This is tied into emotions, okay? Especially aspecting Jupiter, having the sun and all those other placements in Pisces, and then the fact that it is a full moon. Emotions are going to be high at this time, okay? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's just deeply cathartic and it actually feels good to cry, if you know what I'm talking about. But there could be other emotions that come up, of course, anger and frustration and pain and grief and all kinds of stuff, okay? And I just wanted to highlight the fact for you. Oh my gosh. Hey Mercury, what's up? So that you're aware. Give yourself space. Give yourself space to feel, to heal, to release, okay? Because it's likely that this is going to be intense emotionally. And I was going to say, when I did this tarot reading, I felt emotional looking at it. And I also did a personal reading for myself to get like a more, honed in perspective on how it's showing up for me. And oh my gosh, I freaking bawled. Saw it because it hit me so deeply right in my heart. And it was really beautiful, though. Again, it was super cathartic, and I just felt like really grateful, understanding what these energies are bringing to us. So let's talk about that, shall we? We have our significator cards at the top of this reading here. So we have the offering. These are archetype cards, by the way. We have the offering, the castle, and the pilgrim. And this tells us what the bulk of this energy is going to be like and how this eclipse is impacting us. And then we get further details as we go down. So, the offering. During this eclipse, we are asked to sacrifice something. We are asked to give something up. Something needs to be released, relinquished, surrendered. Okay? I talked about surrender just now. This card really shows the energy of that divine offering. When you submit, when you surrender to the divine and you offer up what you need to let go of, it shows how when you do that in good faith with a pure heart, you're not just losing something, you're gaining something. The divine will give you something in return, but you have to sort of empty your hands, so to speak, so that you can receive what's coming in next. And that's really the vibe of this eclipse. It is all about releasing what is not serving us so that we can get into alignment and be ready to receive what is going to serve us. This castle card, this card is all about the fortress, the walls, the boundaries, the parameters that we have set for ourselves at some point in time. We made a decision to build these walls. And walls, of course, is a very metaphorical term, and that can show up in a lot of different ways. This can be emotional boundaries, this can be perceptions that we've held, this can be restrictions that we've placed on ourselves in certain ways. And those things have come in, we've established those walls because they served us at one point in time, right? It is a form of protection. We established these boundaries, this fortress, because it helped us to feel safer at some point in time. But the castle is actually a place that is dark and cold. So it gives us this idea that we're going to be benefited being inside the castle, right? We're protected. It's a luxurious kind of place that we can sort of, hang out in. We feel safe there. But really, it's dark and cold, and it shuts out the rest of the world. My God, I spoke too soon about how well I'm doing with the Mercury energy. Ugh, I never cease to be humbled, you guys. Okay, anyway, moving on. So the castle is what's keeping us locked away and locked out of what's potential for us, what we can expand into. Okay, so this is something that's being illuminated for us at the time of this eclipse. And then we have this pilgrim card, which is all about a journey. It is all about adventure and going beyond your comfort zone. And this can happen in multiple ways, all right? It can signify literal, like travel, like spiritual pilgrimage, okay? So for some folks, this eclipse is going to initiate some kind of literal travel or spiritual pilgrimage for you. But for everyone, it's also going to signify an inner pilgrimage, okay? Going inward, traveling inward, looking within, okay? And as we go within, we discover new facets of ourselves and new places that we want to explore. And that is the overarching energy of this eclipse. Oh, so beautiful. So then I pulled some other cards. So with my astro cards, I got communication in the third house. Of course, makes so much sense. Mercury. Mercury rules this eclipse. Once again, Mercury is retrograde during this eclipse. And then communication itself. Communication can come in many forms. We could literally be communicating with other people, but it's also communication with yourself, right? Like what you're thinking and what kinds of insights are coming to you through this event. What's being illuminated, right? And then, of course, I pulled the Virgo card. Yeah. And the key word on this card is digest, which is the energy of Virgo. Virgo is all about separating the individual parts and removing things that are impure or flawed and digesting. Okay. And I've talked about this before. It's that energy of separating the wheat from the chaff. Virgo is about discovering inner wholeness and completion, and doing that through a process of purification. So we'll get into that a little bit more, but that is a theme going into this event. I pulled this beautiful card, which I am having trouble seeing right now. Watch, this is going to get crazy. Whoa! Just so that Christina can see it. That's right. It is travel. Sorry, that just reminded me of Wayne's World. Whoa! No? Okay. That's just me. Childhood movie most beloved by me. If you don't know Wayne's World, you're missing out. So I pulled this card, which again is travel. Okay, so this again is a theme, right? Like there might be some kind of travel that is initiated through this eclipse. So for some of you, you're literally going to be taking a journey somewhere. And this card talks about how when we take those literal physical journeys, they also mirror an inward journey that's happening simultaneous. They help to reflect what's going on inwardly. And so, again, as within, so without, the law of correspondence. Absolutely, travel is a big theme with this eclipse. And Black Moon Lilith and Sagittarius squaring the nodes. I mean, Sagittarius is the traveler, it is the seeker, right? So that is definitely what we are doing. And this card also is symbolized by a dragon. And I have to tell you guys, if you resonate with dragon energy, if you work with dragons, this eclipse is going to be a wonderful opportunity to connect with them and their energy, because the dragons have been showing up very strong for me recently, and they came through this reading twice actually. So, and very, very magically, very synchronistically, which I won't even get into, but this card is symbolized with a dragon, and it is all about taking those journeys, going back over the past. Okay. So, again, we have the inward traveling as well. This really supports that pilgrim energy. Going over the past, seeing what we have carried through ancient memory or through ancestry or even just through childhood, right? That we've been carrying with us. So, this coordinates with that Jupiter sextile, the moon and south node, and then trine the sun, Pallas, and the north node. Okay. So we're really coming into understanding of what we've been carrying with us and doing that through kind of like this mental traveling. But then again, you could be doing physical traveling as well as part of this process. And it's really showing us what we need to let go of. Like, what's not really serving us? What kind of darkness have we been carrying? What kind of heaviness have we been carrying? And how has it been limiting us? Okay. And then we have this beautiful Ascension Lift card. That is the vibe of what's happening right now. And it's also what's happening as a result of this process of digestion and purification through this Virgo energy. Okay. And literally, if you read from the book, the meaning of this card, it talks about raising your frequency and going through a very fast, kind of like expedited ascension process, right? And that's what we're doing. That's what this eclipse is. That's why it's on a 3/3 portal and coordinating with all these other alignments. It's an accelerated ascension process, okay? It's an initiation for us. It's helping to get us into alignment so that we can move faster, move forward more quickly, and at a farther distance in this year of the fire horse, right? But this card literally talks about letting go of things that are holding you down, that are keeping you in a lower frequency, because you are ascending, you are lifting up, you are raising your vibration. And so this event, once again, is helping us to shed and release what is holding us down. And that is all coordinating with this castle card. So let's go down one more line here. I wanted to pull a dragon card before I even, knew what these other cards were going to be. And then I had dragons show up twice. So again, wow. And then I had the water dragon show up here. Oh, so beautiful. And again, that was a synchronicity for me. That's just a little personal thing. But the water dragon is talking about healing and purifying the heart. Okay, so there is some really beautiful healing energy coming through this event, and it is specifically tied into our heart. And then our tarot cards further illuminate this for us. So we have the Three of Swords, which is grief, pain, heartache, loss, trauma. We have the Four of Swords, which is contemplation and rest and meditation and introspection. We have Death, which is release and transformation. Sorry, I got so that really excited. Release and transformation. And then, oh my gosh, we have the Two of Cups, which is harmony. Harmony, relationships, balance, alignment, and that Leo energy, the heart, the heart, the heart, the heart. So let's put this all together. For each of us, this is going to show up specifically a little bit different, but the overarching theme is the same. Each of us has been carrying something that doesn't serve us any longer. And what we have been carrying is the result of past pain and trauma. Okay. There's something that we have been holding on to that is a painful memory. Okay. There's memories, right? This is tied into ancestry and stuff too, guys. So some of these things could be unconscious memories, but there's something in the mental space, right? Three of Swords, it always shows like a heart being pierced or torn apart or whatever. It's a heart in pain, but it's a swords card. It's about our mind and our perception and our communication. So there is a perspective, there is a thought, there is a memory, there's something that we're holding on to mentally. Okay. And again, Virgo, while it is an earth sign, it is ruled by Mercury. Okay. Mercury is all about the mind. And again, Mercury in Pisces, retrograde at this time. So there's something that we've been holding on to mentally that is causing us pain. Now, on the one hand, the thing that we're holding on to could be a memory of pain. Okay. But it also is causing pain because when we hold on to things that are stagnant and that are limiting our growth or that keep us trapped in old patterns, ultimately that causes pain for us. So we build this castle, right? We're in a fortress. We've put up these walls as a result of this pain. And we've done that to protect ourselves from feeling more pain. But what we don't realize, we may not realize yet, is that those walls of self protection have actually locked us out of our potential, of potential happiness, potential harmony, potential relationships, potential expansion, and alignment. And now is the time when destiny is knocking at our door, right? It's banging on the castle walls, so to speak. And we're being called to do some deep reflection at this time. So, again, we have the pilgrim, which is that inward journey. Virgo, by the way, is associated with the hermit card in tarot. Okay. And the hermit is all about the inward journey and finding your inner light and your inner wisdom. And so we are called for some deep reflection, introspection, and contemplation during this time to journey inward, to travel. Okay. And again, we have that travel card. So it's this inner journey that we are taking to really go back over things, Mercury retrograde, and understand what have I been carrying that is actually not serving me anymore, or what types of perceptions have I been holding on to? Or what types of boundaries have I set in my life that are actually restricting my movement and expansion? Am I still looking at myself in an old way? Like, we've all been undergoing a lot of change and transformation, right? Year of the wood snake, right, folks? But are we still holding outdated beliefs? Outdated ideas, outdated senses of direction and purpose, right? Again, I talked about that Black Moon Lilith squaring the nodes and the eclipse at the time of the eclipse. That truth, right? That Sagittarian truth is coming through. It's a higher expression. It's a higher expanded perception, right? It's taking a bird's eye view of things. It's getting divine insight. And by the way, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter in Cancer, which is also aspecting the nodes and the eclipse, is giving us some really profound psychic information. It's coming through intuition. And again, Mercury retrograde, synchronicity, intuition, epiphany, insight. I've talked about all these things. It's all interwoven, it's all interconnected, right? So during this eclipse, we're getting some deep insight into how we have been limited from expansion and how we have been avoiding the truth. Okay. And that truth might be a little bit hard to look at first because that truth, we've avoided it, whether consciously or unconsciously, because it's going to call us outside of our comfort zone. It's asking us to move beyond the castle walls. And that feels really scary because those walls were put up to prevent that pain, right? As a result of that pain that happened for us at some point in time, there is this wounding in the heart that we have carried for a long time. And we have all done a beautiful job of working with that pain, right? Because you have to still move forward even when you feel pain. And we've done the best that we can by building those walls of self protection, okay? And by the way, having this Two of Cups with the Leo, And I didn't put it on the chart, but we still have Mary Magdalena in the sign of Leo, and she's actually exactly opposite of Chariklo, our feminine wounded healer in Aquarius. So again, inner child wounds perhaps is part of this little equation going on here. And again, Jupiter in Cancer, maybe that's going deep into ancestry, past life memories, or maybe it's just childhood. But there are things that we've been carrying within us that are deeply wounding, and we've done the absolute best that we can. Everybody has done a beautiful job of healing and dealing with those wounds to the best of your ability at the time, the consciousness that you were working with, right? But this is a time of an ascension lift, right? Like we are being lifted into a higher vibration. There is a spiritual calling. The divine has a purpose for you. And that purpose is going to take you beyond the limitations of where you are right now and where you've been operating from. Within those little castle walls, you're being called to go outside and heed the call to adventure, right? The pilgrim. And it's uncomfortable because none of us wants to re-experience that pain, right? We don't want to feel that pain anymore. And we're still carrying that pain. If you have those walls up, it's because you still are carrying that pain in some way. And maybe you've done a lot of healing work, and you probably have. You've probably done a lot of healing work. You've probably been working with those wounds a lot. And if you're like me, you get to a point where you're like, sweet, I'm healed. And then something comes along and kind of smacks you in the face or triggers you or whatever. And then you think, oh gosh, I guess I wasn't so healed. Or I guess there was a piece of that I hadn't fully encountered yet or worked with. So that's what this eclipse is really doing, is it's helping us to journey inward, to reflect, to contemplate, and to come into conscious awareness of what does need to be released. And we have this beautiful water dragon card bringing in this heart healing energy. So 3/3 portal, and I talked about this happening a week before Jupiter turns direct. Jupiter is aspecting the eclipse. I want to make very clear that while this could be emotional and there could be some friction that comes up because this is a lunar eclipse, a total blood moon lunar eclipse. Sorry, this is so funny to me, the way people hype that up. This is not all happening just to like stir up old pain for you, okay? There are blessings. There are huge blessings that are on offer with this, okay? And they're happening because you're ready for them. You've done so much work and you've had such a beautiful journey. And the things that you've experienced, as painful as they may be, they have served you. They really have served you, and they've helped to shape who you are now. But you're also being called to step into a higher expression. You have so much unfulfilled potential, and Spirit is asking you to step up because not only is it part of your mission, not only did your soul choose to do this, but Earth needs this, right? Like the planet, our consciousness, this entire collective ascension process that we're going through right now. They need you. We all need you. I need you. Okay, we all need you to be that beautiful, authentic, embodied, highest expression of yourself that you can be. So you're getting so much support through this eclipse to do this final release, okay? And again, if you want some more clues as to what this might pertain to, as we do this like deep contemplation and inner reflection, right? Take a look at what has shown up for you over the past 6 months. Look back to late August last year. Look back to the fall or spring equinox that happened in September and see what has unfolded over the preceding months since that event. You know, what kind of changes were introduced into your life? What sort of challenges have you been facing? And are there any repeating themes within that window of time? Because those are the things that are being called to be transformed at this time. And again, we have that death card, right? We are releasing right now. We are releasing and then we are transforming. We're going into that ascension lift. And then that Two of Cups. Oh, I love that card. I love it in this deck. It's just such a beautiful depiction of it. And I always love the Two of Cups. So the Two of Cups is harmony and it's alignment. It's also love and relationships. It's coming into agreement with someone or something with yourself, right? And I love this card because it shows the caduceus, which is like the Kundalini rising, right? It's health and healing because we're in balance, but it's also that spiritual fire energy rising up the spine. That is the ascension lift, right? So we are all being lifted through this event. And it's coming with just profound healing. And again, so much support in doing this work. And it is such a blessing because think about, I'm sorry, I don't mean to yammer on too much, but just think about the things that you've carried for so long. There's things that all of us have carried for so long. And maybe there are things that we've genuinely tried to release. I know there are things that I have tried to release over and over and over again. And it's like, especially if you're someone that came here to do ancestral karmic healing, which many of us are here to do that work, we've been caught in these karmic loops. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's part of the process, right? That's what we signed up to do. We all agreed to do this work because we are capable of doing this work. We are provisioned and, we are the souls that are meant to do this kind of work. But it's really hard, especially from the human level, because you keep going through these loops. It's like, oh my gosh, I've done so much work. I've done my research, I'm dedicated, I'm devoted, I do the inner work, I do the shadow work, I do the healing, and I keep having the same themes popping up again and again and again and again. And it's like, when is this finally going to be done? That is what this eclipse is about. It is about closing those loops and finishing the work and finally releasing what you have been carrying that has been hurting you, that has been weighing you down, and ultimately that has been keeping you boxed in. And now we get to let that all go. And this again is connected. I'm going to go ahead and take this away. Let's go ahead and take this away. Whoops, that's not the right button to push. Okay. So again, this is connected to the Aquarius eclipse, right? Because eclipses come in cycles. So Aquarius showed us where we're headed, the fire horse. This is all like that rapid, passionate, forward momentum kind of energy. And it's expansive and it's exciting. That's where we're going, right? That's where we're being called. And the Virgo eclipse is telling us you have to let go of these things and you have to transform these things so that you can make room, right? We had that offering card. You need to sacrifice something. You need to give something up. You need to let something go because you're getting something so much better. And as long as you're holding on here, you can't be open to receive. So that is the vibe of this eclipse, folks. It is so, so beautiful. And again, it might be emotional. You might be feeling a lot. I always tell people with, eclipses, give yourself space. And if it is aspecting your chart, again, look to see if you have something happening around 12 degrees in your chart. Check the goddess asteroids too. Check the things that you might not normally look at. And if you're not sure how to do that, once again, I do readings for folks. So if you want to go to zenithglowastrology.com, you can book a reading with me. I would love to look at your chart and help you figure this stuff out. But either way, something is being transformed for us at this time. And it's such a beautiful thing because ultimately the result of that transformation is that ascension lift. And thus we will carry forward through the rest of the year. Okay, I hope this all made sense. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. I love you all. Once again, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I really, really appreciate all of your support. Happy blood moon lunar Virgo eclipse, and I will catch you all in the next video. Much love to you. Goodbye.